Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar dedicated to electronic communications. My name is Andrea Hack, and I'm a stakeholder communications expert here at the AI office. I'll be moderating today our latest webinar as part of the Apply AI webinar series. This series is dedicated to exploring the EU strategy to boost AI adoption and innovation across key sectors, with a particular focus on small and medium-sized enterprises. Now today we will be speaking about, we will be exploring AI and the transformation of the electronic communication sector. In particular, we'll be discussing optimizing networks, how AI can enhance customer experiences, and also enable new services. There are three main aspects which we'll be covering. First of all, we'll discuss how telecoms operators are already benefiting from AI. Next, we'll discuss how the Apply AI strategy aims to boost and accelerate the adoption of AI across this sector. And finally, we'll discuss some key enablers. For example, dedicated telecom datasets, specialized models, and AI-related standards. Let me first introduce our three speakers from DG Connect. First, we have Veronika Kadlikova, who is coordinating the Apply AI strategy actions for the electronic communications sector. Next, we have Agustin Diaz-Pinez, who is the Deputy Head of Unit for Future Connectivity Systems. And finally, we have Giorgio Remunen Suarez, who works with Agustin, defending and implementing EU policy and digital connectivity innovation. Now, this is an interactive session, so we would very much encourage you to engage with us via our Slido application. You'll see a QR code appearing on your screen right now. Please take a minute to pull out your phones and connect on our Slido, and you can ask any questions you might have to our speakers here today. We will get to these at the end of our session. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to join us there. Now, without further ado, let's first take a brief moment to discuss the current state of play within the sector. As you know, telecommunications is really the backbone of the digital age. It's transforming how we live, how we work, and how we interact with each other. Day by day, our digital lives and our in real life lives are actually blurring together more and more, to the point that many scholars believe we are actually already living in the infosphere. And this is putting increasing pressure on telecoms operators who need to provide reliable, secure, and affordable networks to millions of citizens and businesses. Now, Veronika, I understand that the Apply AI strategy is not a top-down initiative, but it's really focused on engaging sectoral stakeholders in discussions on the AI strategy. Could you tell us a little bit about how you engage these stakeholders and also what you've learned from them so far?
Thank you, Andrea, and good morning to everybody. Indeed, I think that what distinguishes the Apply AI strategy is that it is firmly rooted in evidence-based policymaking. All the actions that we put forward are based on the structured consultations with the sectorial stakeholders and on expert analysis. So what you see in the strategy is directly reflecting the needs and the priorities of the sector. We conducted these consultations last year because we think that we are at a turning point. We're moving from AI development to large-scale deployment. And that brings a lot of opportunities and also a lot of challenges. And we think that we can provide the sectors with practical support to make this necessary transition. The uptake of AI in the EU remains very low. According to Eurostat, in 2025, last year, only 20% of EU companies used AI, and that is simply not enough if we want to stay competitive in the rapidly moving world. We covered the sector of electronic communications in the Apply AI strategy based on a broader reflection, including the Draghi report. But I want to emphasize that we included it also because we see the sector as a critical enabler of all other digital innovations in Europe and our competitiveness as a continent. You also asked about what kind of challenges the key stakeholders identified. They mention rapidly growing data traffic, rising customer expectations, the demands on ensuring the resilience and security of the networks, emerging services such as the Internet of Things or real-time applications, all going hand in hand with managing rising energy consumptions. And we believe that AI can help address all of these challenges. And we, through the Apply AI strategy, can help the sector and its actors to adopt and use AI to that objective.
Augustine, based on some of these findings, it sounds like the telecoms sector is really at a crossroads right now. What are some ways that AI-enabled technologies can help meet some of these challenges that these telecoms operators are facing right now?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let me first start by explaining how we see the link and the relationship between the telco sector, the electronic communications sector, and AI infrastructure. First, as my colleague mentioned, it is an enabler. Telecom networks are a part of the infrastructure needed to process the computing needs, to train, to fine-tune, and to inference in the AI models. So it is part of the overall AI infrastructure that is needed for AI adoption overall. Second, telecom operators and the telco sector more broadly can be themselves providers of AI services. Through their networks, they can be providing and offering advanced AI services to their customers. And third, and this is actually what the Apply AI strategy is about, is how the sector can use AI to optimize, to innovate, and to improve their operations. In that respect, in this third aspect, is where the Apply strategy is acting. And we see in the telecom sector, in the telecom network, which are very complex, many hundreds of different use cases in different parts of the network. We can group them in big families of use cases. The first one I would mention is how AI can help operators optimize the network management and the network performance. How to allocate resources. Every second there are thousands of decisions being taken by the network. How to detect a mobile user, allocate more resources, allocate spectrum to a new user, and so forth. In that, AI has a huge potential to optimize and automate the network operations. Second, and we're all aware that there are cybersecurity threats, there are resilience challenges in the networks. So it is very important to use AI to identify these complex patterns and to identify incidents and disruptions and react quickly to them. So we now are talking about what we call self-healing networks that themselves identify the incidents and heal themselves and do what is necessary to have resilience and to reply to these security threats. And then finally, I would also mention a broad use case group of AI for energy efficiency in the network. The consumption of energy is a very important factor and a very important constraint of telecom networks, and AI can help optimize this energy consumption. For example, we know a case of an operator that uses AI to identify when a base station needs to be switched off automatically because there are no users using them. So that's an example of how the energy consumption of the network can be reduced. And then I would like to mention about quite an important role that the industry can have. It's about the edge AI. So AI inference and AI devices at the edge that is closer to the user. so that the data doesn't go back to the data center. It stays close to the user, for example, at the base station or even at the device. So we see models, AI models, and inference taking place even on your own device, or on your virtual reality glasses, on robots, and so forth. And we see this is an area of huge potential where telcos and the telecom sector can have a very important role.
Absolutely. And those are some really fascinating examples of the potential of AI for this sector. Giorgio, I'm wondering if you can give us an overview of how AI is already being used right now by these telecoms operators.
First of all, thank you, Andrea, for the question, and good morning, everybody. What we're seeing in 2026 this year is that the telcos are mostly concerned with cost reduction and with operational efficiency. Those are broadly one of the use cases that Agustin mentioned before. We see a lot of work done by them around customer experience and support. A lot of chatbots being deployed to help customers with their different incidents, to help them navigate the complexity of the services offered by them. So in most cases, they are highly customized and tailored exactly to the needs, knowing all the information from the customer that is required and is essential for providing the service. We also see examples around security and fraud detection. In these broad use cases, AI voice is very useful in detecting some of these frauds, and particularly there's many examples, but I would like to cite one. That is one major telco in Europe that is using AI precisely to detect abnormal patterns in the calls by analyzing the call detail records. So for instance, if a customer starts to receive one ring and drop call, so somebody calls and automatically drops the call with the purpose that the customer calls back and is an international premium number, then this call is detected ahead and is blocked as a result, reducing problems and fraud in general. Examples around energy savings, we see one of the telco providers having been able to reduce by 20% their energy costs. A big telco in Germany is using a digital twin, which is a sort of model of how the network is operating there, with the purpose to enhance transport and management of their infrastructure. We see examples also, as Agustin mentioned, around self-healing networks, where in some cases, both in Europe and in China and other places, the network detects ahead what is going on, if there are any given problems, and restarts faulty equipment, therefore reducing the downtime for customers in general. And in other cases, we see traffic management, where when there's a big spike in traffic, for instance, the load is distributed between different servers. This helps, again, with the provision of the service and to ensure a high quality of service. And obviously, as any big corporation is using it for its own internal processes, from HR to software development and to internal handling of knowledge. But however, I would like to emphasize that the most interesting use cases are around the corner as we are coming towards 6G and we start to use AI as part of the network to enhance the network itself around the radio access, or even later to become the telcos becoming also providers of AI services as we currently understand them, like LLMs and other models for that purpose.
So it's great to hear we're already seeing some glimmers of innovation happening across the sectors with these new technologies that are emerging. But as Giorgio said, we're really around the corner from even more feeling the full potential of these AI-based technologies. Veronica, I think one of the main questions on everyone's mind is, how does the European Commission plan to support further adoption of AI technologies across this sector?
Well, I think as demonstrated already by the colleagues, the sector is already seeing a big momentum, right? Around 65% of telecom operators globally are already developing AI strategies and testing AI solutions. But the impact remains limited, although the potential is clearly recognized. And that is mainly because of the lack of open platforms and sufficient capacity at edge. And this is where we see the role for public policy and public support. Within the Apply AI strategy, to support the AI adoption in the European Union, we cover 10 industrial sectors, the sector of electronic communications among them, and a public sector. We have mobilized €1 billion to do that, and we hope that this is just a beginning, a starting point. Concretely, in the sector of electronic communications, we have identified several actions that we put forward and that we are now working very hard on implementing. I can mention a creation of the European Telco AI platform, which will help to overcome current fragmentation and enable wider deployment of AI solutions. I can also mention the support for the development of edge AI devices. We are looking at how we can enable access to more dedicated data sets for telecoms, how to support the development of the specialized models and AI solutions for the telecom sector. And last but not least, we are strengthening our participation and our role in the standard-making bodies, which play a very important role in how the telecoms and, well, our world will look like in the future. I will stop here, as I assume that colleagues will go more into details later on, but I want to make one thing clear. What we're trying to do here, what is our approach, is to enable the conditions technologically, regulatory, collaboratively, to enable this sector to flourish and to really help the digital innovation and competitiveness of our whole continent.
Absolutely. And I'd like to dive a bit deeper into one of these actions that you mentioned specifically. So I understand that supporting the creation of specialized models is one of these. Augustine, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about why this is a special focus for the European Commission and why it's so relevant for the sector.
Well, as you all know, AI applications, AI systems are based on models. So for an AI application to work, there needs to be an underlying model. And large language models, LLMs, are costly to develop, need vast resources to be trained. And sometimes you refer to existing foundation models. There are not many, and there are not many European ones. So there is a challenge there on how to develop those models for the telco sector. In that respect, under Horizon Europe, we are running the challenge-driven Gen AI for EU initiative, where we want to help the telco sector to develop their own models. And when I say models for the telco sector, they can be, there will be many different models specialized in different parts of the network. Another option, another need that we see is the need for test beds, where all these models could be tested with high quality data. And so, for example, we could develop a test bed for specialized telco models. But we are looking at the different options and alternatives there under the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking. That's the European 6G initiative for research and innovation. And as my colleague mentioned, 6G will be the first AI native generation technology for mobile communications, and AI is of course will be part of 6G. What we see is that there is not so much need of having a huge LLM, but we need smaller, what we call SLMs, small language models, for specific applications. Spectrum efficiency, network management, security. And there we see a huge potential for these models to be developed. We also see that these models, if they are to be applied to telco networks, they should be explainable and transparent. Because if the model did something to heal the network and to solve a problem in the network, if you're a network manager, you want to know what the model did and what happened there. So it's even a more demanding need for transparency and explainability that might not be perhaps so present in other sectors.
Absolutely. And Giorgio, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about another of the flagship actions, which is the European Telco AI platform. Could you tell us why this is a particular focus for the Commission and why you think that it'll be particularly beneficial for the sector?
Yes. So the action will concentrate mostly on the main components, on building or helping to build in Europe the main components of this telco platform, for which this will help also as a foundational element for the telco industry to develop their own AI models. To this, they will enable operators, vendors, and user industries to collaboratively work together to build these elements of this stack of this platform, including mediation layers, data engineering, interfaces to the cloud, AI services, potentially based on cloud services, on open cloud services, but on open source. But I would like to stress on an important element. This action is very much linked to the existing, to a project we've started, and we're at the point of, we have not yet started. We're in the process. We're signing the grant soon enough, which is the Euro 3C project. It's a 75 million euro project that brings together 87 consortium members, precisely to bring about cutting-edge digital services through its own connectivity and reducing the reliance on third-party countries. This will bring about the connection between the telecom networks, the edge computing, and the cloud infrastructure into a single integrated platform that will bring high-speed and secure computing power back to the users. But you'll see the connection quite clearly with the purpose of the Telco AI platform. Coming back to the Telco AI platform, we have engaged with stakeholders to identify what is missing. And in this process, we've laid out a first, highly stylized model of what a Telco Edge AI would look like. This is not the whole elements of the network, but it just, as Agustin mentioned, is what is closer to the end user. And you'll see that there's a first layer that has to do with the physical infrastructure, with the compute, the networking, and the storages. A second element with is the virtualization. A third element about orchestration and where this network integration and data plane exist. And a fourth one that contains those AI services that will be highly customized to the elements of the network, or could be more general, as Agustin mentioned, for small language model, large language models, etc. And of course, this also has multiple layers that cross, like sustainability, security, and management. This model could be extended, obviously, to cover multiple companies at the same time within the same hardware, given its cost, because it is estimated to bring about significant additional cost, this move to this new paradigm. And currently, what we are doing after reviewing, after discussing with the stakeholders, we've identified a number of gaps. We've identified gaps in hardware, in silicon. We've identified gaps in services provided by European cloud providers, in the virtualization layer, in the data collection itself, in this, which is usually highly siloed, in the edge use cases around radio access, but not only radio access, and even in agentic AI and in the federated learning that would come about. So what we are currently doing after this engagement with industry and with other stakeholders is to analyze. We are in the process of analyzing the best way forward to try to scope what the action would look like, and to start with a view to start the development precisely around the last quarter of this year. It is too early to go into details, but we have one of the elements we're currently considering is whether we will use some sort of pilots that could help industry reduce the risk in deploying these models, as well as validate some of the business models. But it's too early on to discuss exactly what will be in the industry, because we're just analyzing the replies we received to this engagement with the stakeholders.
So far we've heard some great examples of how emerging AI-based solutions going hand in hand with some of these flagship actions and initiatives could help to revolutionize the sector. But my question now is, Veronica, is this really only for the big players? How can we also include SMEs within these new strategies and ensure that they have the support they need to really benefit from these emerging solutions?
Thank you, Andrea. I think this is a very important point to make. We strongly believe that the success of AI in telecoms will ultimately depend on the strength of the whole ecosystem, not just the largest players. It is true that major European operators and vendors are investing quite heavily into using and developing, oftentimes in-house, AI solutions. And this is something that we are very happy about and are actively encouraging. But that does not mean that the field is closed to the others, quite the contrary. We are already seeing that the SMEs are demonstrating their value, for example, by developing some highly specialized applications to be used in the sector, such as, for example, the fault detection in fixed networks, using the computer vision to automatically analyze images and extract actionable insights. So our objective is to foster a dynamic and inclusive ecosystem where both established players as well as the newcomers can design and deliver and use cutting-edge AI solutions and applications. And to be a bit more concrete, to support this, we have put forward some concrete measures. For instance, under the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking, there is a clear target. At least 20% of funding going into projects should go to the SMEs. This is a very practical way to ensure that smaller actors have access to the resources and the tools and can actively contribute to the whole ecosystem. In parallel, to mention just some other examples, because there's really a lot that we are doing also horizontally, the SMEs can benefit from support from the European Digital Innovation Hubs. We call them our soldiers on the ground, who can help the SMEs and mid-caps to test and deploy AI solutions and build the necessary skills that they need to have in-house. Access to infrastructure is also a key, and this is why we are investing in AI factories, which will provide the necessary compute capacity needed for the development and deployment. And in the future, larger scale facilities, the gigafactories, will complement this for more demanding use cases. So the short answer, I would say, is no. For sure, the AI game in telecoms is not only for big players, even though they play a very important role.
Absolutely. And I'd love to dive deeper into a very important piece of the puzzle for all of this, and that is data sets. As we know, access to high quality, dedicated data sets is really a game changer, particularly in terms of enabling intelligent network automation, optimization, and resilience, but also for empowering providers with AI as a service. Augustine, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about some of the European Commission's actions towards ensuring access to dedicated data sets within this sector.
Sure. I mean, we all know, I think, not only for this sector, but access to good quality data is basic, is really a precondition for having a successful AI adoption. And the telco sector is not an exception to this, but I should say that it faces specific challenges about how these data are structured and where they sit and how they are treated. So we see challenges with the fragmentation of this data. I mean, they typically sit in proprietary systems in different parts of the network with different formats, using different tools to process them. And of course, nothing of this is standard or interoperable with others and so forth. We also see, and that's one of the main challenges, confidentiality concerns. I mean, this data, having access to this data gives you access to how an operator or a vendor operates the network or how it improves the product. So it is very sensitive and very confidential data that operators and vendors are not necessarily ready to share. So we see those big challenges. To be honest, some of them, for example, this confidentiality and sensitiveness of the data are really difficult to solve. But we are trying, and we're trying to, for example, under one action under the SNS, that's actually this year. So that means it will be evaluated very soon, and the project will start next year. The aim of this action is to have a set of curated data sets of high quality, real world data that can be used to train AI models for telecoms. Another one, and that's the second best option to having real world data, is to have a simulator, to have synthetic data that are also of high quality and that could also be used to train the network, the AI network models. There are other action. I mean, other components in this action, and as I said, it's under will be under evaluation soon. So we don't know really what proposal we will get, but it's also there should be a component there also about tools to treat and to process this data, for the potential data spaces where these data are aggregated. All that bearing in mind the very sensitive nature and the high reluctance of the industry to share this data. But we're confident that we can advance under this action and other future actions to improve access to data and the quality of the data to train the models for the sector.
Excellent. And just a brief reminder, if you have any questions for our speakers, please do send them to the Slido and we'll get to them very soon. But before we get to the audience Q&A, I would like to dive deeper into one of the last key enablers, which is standardization. Giorgio, I'm wondering, how can standardization actually help to promote the adoption of AI? And what are some of the actions outlined within the Apply AI strategy to focus on this?
Thank you for the question. It's standards is a rather typically boring topic, but standards are all around us. So they are key for industry competitiveness. They enable interoperability, they bring research and innovation to the market, they ensure trust from the consumers, they reduce regulatory challenges in most cases. But of course, all this also has a cost. It takes time to develop and adopt standards. In some cases, there's a potential risk of international fragmentation across different countries or regions there. There's the potential risk of reduced competition and sometimes high development costs for small and medium enterprises. But in the telco sector, the standards have been one of the driving elements of its success, starting already from what some of you may not remember, GSM, all the way to 5G and to the future 6G. And in some cases, it goes even beyond the products themselves. We see that the European Telecommunications Standards Institute, ETSI for short, one of the leading standard development organizations, particularly in Europe, has defined a process to identify and deal with cases where standards may impact human rights. So, as you see, the standards all around us and they are particularly important for telecom. So what can we expect from 6G particularly, and why 6G is important and is so much related to standardization. 6G is expected to come around in 2030, and as we already started to mention before, it will be present in many parts of the network, in the radio access, in the core, in the transport, in the network management of itself, how it operates. And we will expect new capabilities like integrated sensing, like energy efficient architectures. And there's already a lot of work ongoing around standardization. We see the work from the third generation partnership project, 3GPP for short, which has already started to work on machine learning, artificial intelligence, already in the current version of 5G, which is called 5G Advanced, which they refer to as Release 19. And this work will continue much more into Releases 20 and 21. Release 21 being the first one that will be properly called 6G. But 3GPP is not the only organization that is working on this. We have work from TM Forum, we have work from the Open Radio Access Network, which is an industry-led initiative that is bringing about support for AI-driven functionalities such as traffic steering, energy savings, etc. Or even ETSI, who's also working in this area to facilitate the integration between machine learning, artificial intelligence, and the telecoms sector. But what are we concretely doing as part of the Apply AI strategy? So far, we have engaged with stakeholders to identify the most promising use cases, business-driven use cases for 6G that can have, or we estimate, that the industry, the stakeholders estimate, will have a strong market and societal impact, number one. Number two, we outline the technical features that those standards would require. And particularly, we've concentrated on what would be needed on the first day that will have 6G in operation, so around 2030. After that, we are considering whether and how to, if this would be needed, to gather industry efforts to advance European positions in standard development organizations. I want to stress this point. In these organizations usually are driven by consensus, so what's important is what the different parties bring to the discussion. So presence in those organizations is paramount to achieve and to make sure that our positions are well reflected in the development of those standards. And going forward, we will consider whether some specific projects similar to what we've been doing up to now with the STAN ICT program could be used to promote the presence and the development of these standards, particularly for our European players.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. So now we will turn to the Q&A portion of our webinar. So please do share any questions you may have for our speakers today. So our first question is for Veronica. What will happen next with the Apply AI strategy?
You know, it always puts a smile on my face when I get this kind of question, because what sometimes happens is that you announce an initiative and on the next day people ask you what's next. But jokes aside, let me assure everybody that what we're focusing on at the moment is the implementation. I know that it may not be as sexy and as announcing new flashy things, but I strongly believe, and my team strongly believes, that it is at least as important as that. We are now doing our best to put the strategy and turn it into concrete actions and deliver real results. And I think, as demonstrated by my colleagues earlier, you can see that we are already making significant progress on all of the actions that we have put forward in this particular sector. But at the same time, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's just a starting point. We have launched the Apply AI Alliance. I warmly invite everybody to check the website of the European Commission and find the Apply AI Alliance, where we provide all interested people in the sectors that we are covering with the strategy with the latest news, trends in the sector, etc. On top of it, it works both ways. So when you register and when you follow the website, you are also invited to share your experience, share your ideas, and contribute to the AI policy making in the future. So it would really make us very happy if you look at it, engage, and you may also get the invitation in the future for one of our next structured dialogues that we are launching again this year. Also for the sector of electronic communications, we will aim to get latest updates and the feedback on how we are doing with the implementation and have a bit more forward-looking approach. I think it's fair to say, and it comes as a no surprise to anybody, that a lot will depend on the outcome of the negotiations of the next multi-annual financial framework, the budget of the EU. So we will yet see how ambitious we will be able to be in the future. But if you want to be part of it, please, you are warmly welcome to join us in the future endeavors.
Absolutely. And Augustine, I have a question for you from the audience. So you already started to cover this, but they'd love you to tell us a little bit more about which mechanisms have been considered to help share telecoms data sets safely, despite confidentiality concerns. For example, anonymization, trusted data spaces, synthetic data, or federated learning.
I would say among those you mentioned, I think all of them are being considered. Mm-hmm. On anonymization, I would say that it is anonymous until it isn't anonymous anymore. So it could be anonymous according to today's technology, but you sometimes don't know what will happen with newer technology. Data spaces and ways to aggregate data is, of course, an important area here, and that is linked to the trusted host of those data as well. So we see actually in some industry initiatives going in that direction. And as I mentioned before, that could be part of some of the projects that we're funding, for example, under SNS. I see more the answer in developing the right tools to process those data, so that operators are able to extract and not necessarily share with others, to extract those data, to aggregate them, and have it ready to be used for training models. So I don't think there's a single answer to that. I think we should act in all these areas. Bearing in mind that, of course, what is more interesting for the industry is real-world data sets, and synthetic data sets can get you as far as they can, but it is a second best, as I mentioned before, option for having good quality data.
And we have another question for you. Earlier, you mentioned that AI inference workloads are moving to the edge of the network. This is a natural evolution from traditional edge computing. Is there any specific support to European network providers to promote more research on this topic?
There is. I mean, we see the move to the edge as one trend. We need to see, though, how much this will materialize in practice, so how important the edge will be, and especially how important the applications that need workloads at the edge will become. As I mentioned before, it has many advantages: lower latency, potential better sovereignty, local data, which can be interesting for sensitive data as well. But we need to see how this will materialize and how important that will be. We are thinking about that as part of the overall initiatives that we have on research under Smart Networks and Services Youth Undertaking. It is also an area we're looking at on the Telco AI platform, how you can have infrastructure, edge infrastructure, and of course, having a central infrastructure has some advantages as well, which is you only have one or a few nodes, and you have something at the edge. You need to multiply the cost by the number of nodes, so that can go, the cost can go high very quickly. And therefore, what it can make sense is sharing of those infrastructure, and which calls for virtualization and for the neutral hosts and ways for operators to share this edge infrastructure and to reduce cost and make it economically viable.
Veronica, we hear more and more conversations on the need to strengthen Europe's technological sovereignty. Can you elaborate a bit on how the Apply AI strategy is already supporting union sovereignty, particularly in critical sectors like electronic communications?
Thank you for the question. It's true. We're hearing about it more and more, and it's also a focus of the Commission. Maybe let me start with emphasizing that Europe already has many strengths that we can be proud of and that we can build on. I sometimes feel that this information gets lost, and it's a pity. So I want really to re-emphasize this point. We have a strong industrial basis, we have a vibrant ecosystem, many AI startups and innovative companies, more than in the US. We have many engineers, we have excellent research, high quality data, and a robust regulatory framework which can provide trust to the companies and to our citizens. But okay, I also need to be honest, much of the value created from AI comes from outside of our continent. A lot of the models that we are using or building our applications over are developed elsewhere, and a large share of the scale-up funding also come from outside Europe. And that is something that we are focusing on and that we want to change. You asked, I think, what is the role of the Apply AI strategy? I think it's a critical part of our solution. We believe that if we manage to accelerate the AI uptake across our strategic sectors in Europe, we will also help rising demand for European solutions, which will, as an effect, help the innovative companies and our startups to invest more and develop cutting-edge AI solutions that we urgently need in Europe. Not just that, in the Apply AI strategy, we are also directly supporting the development of, well, first of all, foundation models, and as well some sectorial specialized models for the sectors, including the telecoms sector. I think another important piece of puzzle is an upcoming tech sovereignty package. I cannot really go into the details because it has not yet been released. But the objective of this package will be to further reduce European dependence on non-European providers. The package will include the CHIPS Act 2.0, which will strengthen our ecosystem of semiconductors and strengthen our resilience when it comes to the supply chain. And it will also include Cloud and AI Development Act, which will accelerate our data center capacity and the offer of sovereign cloud solutions. So without going into the details, as I said, I think that once these pieces come together and, you know, hopefully with in the cooperation with the private sector, because obviously they are the ones who will, you are the ones who will play the strongest role here, we will be able to shift this value and keep it more at home. Maybe just to clarify as well, our objective is not to close Europe off from the rest of the world. what we are trying to achieve is to create the right conditions, the right ecosystem, the right tools, the right support to be able to use and develop the trustworthy AI on our own terms, while still being connected to the world and to global innovation.
Absolutely. Augustine, would you like to share as well?
Yes, I wanted to add, and it's pretty much on the strengths that Veronica mentioned. I mean, in this sector, in the telco sector, we're lucky to have two of the three global players of telecom equipment, and that's a very important strength that we could use to expand and to build capacities in neighboring technologies such as AI or semiconductors. So that's indeed, now all these technologies are coming together. I mean, we cannot conceive today telecoms network without semiconductors or without AI. But it is indeed a chance that we have to start from something and to incorporate the technologies to this sector. I also should say that in all the initiatives that were mentioned here, under the SNSJU, for example, and others, the sovereignty angle is very much involved. So when we design the programs, the work programs and the projects and the actions, we have this in mind. Because one of the main objectives is to develop EU capacities and EU technology.
Absolutely. Now, I'd love to finish off with one quick fire round, each person answering what are you most excited about and what is one thing that you would like our audience to take away from this webinar. I'll give you a moment to think about this. Giorgio, would you like to start?
Sure. I think with some of the initiatives, particularly with, we talked about the telco AI platform, we have an opportunity in Europe really to bring about change. The change that Veronica mentioned that currently is led by non-European players, be it American, be it Chinese. We have an opportunity, if we play well and we're strategic about it, how to modify and to turn this to our own advantage.
Absolutely. Veronica, would you like to share?
Yes, to build on my colleague, I think I'm personally most excited about staying engaged with the stakeholders and build on this relationship that we created also as part of the preparing the Apply AI strategy. I think we all realize that it cannot be the European Commission alone doing the work, that it's mainly the private sector, and we are here to help. So I hope that we will be able to stay in touch and we will push the Apply AI strategy in the future as well. We hope that we will get the possibility to evolve it further, maybe add some more sectors, maybe add some more actions that will really help the stakeholders and all of you to flourish and take the advantages that AI offers nowadays. It's an exciting time to be alive, so let's take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Augustine?
I can perhaps finish with what I started with in my first intervention. So I think the telco sector should not only be an AI customer, but be an AI provider and an AI enabler. So, of course, using AI to improve efficiency and network management has to be done. There's no choice. But they can be providers of AI and they can be enablers of AI because they are the providers of connectivity. And, of course, here at the European Commission, we're ready to help. I mean, you see initiatives such as the AI Gigafactories, and where we want to see the telco industry being very, very active.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say thank you very much to our three experts here who joined us today for sharing all of your insights with us. And I'd like to echo again what Veronica said earlier. To our audience, thank you very much for joining us today. And please do consider continuing to engage with us by joining the Apply AI Alliance and continuing to engage in the dialogue and share more about your experience and also engage in AI policy dialogue. So thank you very much for joining us, and please do join us for the next webinar, which is scheduled for June, that will focus on creative, culture, and media sectors. Thank you.